Learning English with English Faculties. Today we will understand the poem, Telephone Conversation, by Wole Soyinka.
Imagine finding the perfect rental apartment in a decent location with a reasonable price. You call the landlady to confirm the details, but the conversation abruptly derails. She doesn't ask about your income or your references. She only wants to know the exact shade of your skin color. This is the exact scenario in Wole Soyinka's 1963 poem, Telephone Conversation. For grade 12 ISC board students, this poem serves as a masterclass in how to dismantle ignorance using nothing but sharp wit and superior intellect. The narrative tension starts immediately. The speaker, an African man looking for a room in 1960s London, anticipates the discrimination he will face. To avoid wasting his time on a pointless journey, he makes a preemptive admission. "Madam, I warned, I hate a wasted journey. I am African." This single line sets up an intellectual duel between two opposing forces. On one side of the line, you have an educated, highly composed African man. On the other side is a British landlady whose polite etiquette masks a shallow, hypocritical prejudice. Right from the first stanza, Soyinka establishes the poem's core theme. We are watching a direct clash between an individual defending his human dignity and a society operating on prepackaged, thoughtless racism. The landlady's immediate reaction to his confession is a heavy, uncomfortable silence. The speaker perfectly described this as the silenced transmission of pressurized good breeding. For your ISC exams, pay close attention to that phrase. The landlady considers herself high class and well-bred, yet her awkward silence betrays her deep-seated racial discomfort, exposing the hypocrisy of her so-called polite manners. Waiting on the line, the caller pictures his opponent. He visualizes an affluent woman belonging to the urban elite, describing her as lipstick-coated, long gold-rolled cigarette holder pipped. Contrast her imagined, privileged world with the reality of where the speaker is actually standing. He is calling from a public booth in a modest, integrated neighborhood, surrounded by everyday London storefronts and cafes. Round 1 exposes a harsh reality. Systemic prejudice routinely hides behind the veneer of high-class etiquette. The speaker instantly recognizes this polite facade and prepares to challenge it. Then comes the landlady's absurd central question. Dropping all pretense, she asks, "How dark? Are you light or very dark?" She attempts to reduce his entire human identity to a simple multiple-choice query. The speaker notes she sounds like an automated prompt, forcing him to choose between button A or button B on a telephone dial pad. It is a completely dehumanizing moment, turning a complex person into a mechanical input. Disgusted, he notes the stench of rancid breath of public hide-and-speak. This brilliant phrase highlights the double standards of individuals who practice racial discrimination in private while hiding behind polite phrasing in public. Feeling alienated by the question, the speaker looks around his physical environment. The color red suddenly dominates his vision, starting with the red telephone booth he is standing inside. Right nearby, he registers a red pillar box. He is searching for concrete reality to ground himself in the face of the landlady's absurd interrogation. Finally, he observes a red double-tiered omnibus rolling past, its heavy tires squelching the black tar of the road beneath it. This imagery carries immense weight for your exam analysis. The red omnibus symbolizes the oppressive, racist white society that attempts to squelch the black tar, which represents people of color. The landlady's interrogation violently pushes the speaker out of a normal, polite transaction. It forces him to recognize the heavy, pervasive racial bias baked into the very streets around him. Realizing the nature of the conversation, the speaker adjusts his wavelength. Instead of reacting with anger, he chooses sharp sarcasm to dismantle the landlady's dehumanizing logic. This animated diagram illustrates a scientific light spectrum. A spectroscope measures light wavelengths. He mocks her for treating human skin color like a cold scientific test. He then proudly defines his shade as West African sepia, asserting cultural pride while confusing her limited worldview. To completely overload her narrow perspective, he begins detailing the varying colors of his individual body parts. He explains that his face is brunette, the soles of his feet are peroxide blonde, and the friction of sitting has turned his bottom raven black. By mirroring her absurd obsession with color and responding with superior intellect, the speaker wins the battle of wits. He proves that her prejudice is intellectually hollow and morally bankrupt. Unable to handle her own absurdity being reflected back at her, the landlady gives up. The speaker hears her receiver whirring on the thunderclap about his ears as she violently slams the phone down. For the ISC boards, this climax secures the first major thematic takeaway, the absurdity of racism. The poem systematically mocks the idea of reducing complex human beings to superficial shades of melanin. The second major takeaway is separation versus connection. A telephone is a tool built to connect people. Here it does the exact opposite, highlighting the vast psychological distance between the self and the prejudiced other. Soyinka's poem proves that while racism attempts to strip away a person's humanity, it ultimately fails against a sharp mind. True dignity remains intact for those who simply refuse to hand it over.